Hello, we are now in session 2 of unit 4, which is the time value of money. I am your host, Elias. In this video, we are going to look at the interest rate and then take one part of the interest rates, which is the simple interest rate. So clearly, it should be noted that money loses value over time. If you have a kwacha today, the same kwacha may not be worth one kwacha tomorrow because money loses value over time. As such, what we note is that to keep a kwacha today to be worth a kwacha tomorrow, it has to earn interest. For example, if you borrow money today to be paid at some point in the future, that money should be paid back with some interest to keep its value at the same as it was the time that you borrowed that money. So if you borrow money and say you borrow 10 kwacha and then after 10 years you pay back the 10 kwacha, that 10 kwacha may not be worth the same as it was the time you borrowed that money. As such, we bring in the concept of interest rates to maintain its worth to the future value. So, interest rates therefore can be looked at as an opportunity cost of capital. That is, when you earn interest rate on a given project, suppose that you are going to earn interest on an investment, say in treasury bills, but you decide not to keep to get the security. Instead, you decide to go and put your money in the bank. The opportunity cost will be the interest that you will have earned if you had put your money in the treasury bills. So as such, interest rates can be looked at as an opportunity cost of capital. Maybe clearly illustrated, if a sum of money is tied up in a project for a year, then the investor loses the interest that could have been earned by investing the money elsewhere, perhaps by putting it in a deposit account. So if this happens, it means then that you will not be able to acquire the interest or to earn the interest because you have not put your money in that investment, in that project. As such, the interest that you have forgone becomes the opportunity cost of capital. So we will look at two types of interest rates, the first one being the simple interest rate and the second one being the compound interest rate. As earlier stated, in this video, we will focus on the simple interest rate. Okay, let's quickly go to the simple interest rate and see what we can get from there. Simply defined or simply described, simple interest is the interest that accrues on a given sum in a set time period. Now, this period can be a year, it can be a month, it can be a semi-annual, quarter, and so on. It can even be weeks. So when you are looking at simple interest rate, we are simply looking at the interest that will accrue at a given point in time, and then you check how many periods you have for a given investment. Therefore, simple interest is not reinvested along with the original capital, which means that if you invest a 10 kwacha today at a 10% interest rate, which is simple interest rate, at the end of period 1, you will get your 1 kwacha. At the end of period 2, you will get 1 kwacha. At the end of period 3, you will get 1 kwacha, and so on. Meaning, with simple interest rate, the interest that you get will not change. It will be fixed over time because that interest is not reinvested. And as such, the amount of interest earned on a given investment each time period will remain unchanged over the investment period. For example, as earlier stated, if you invest a 10 kwacha and if the interest is 2 kwacha, meaning the interest rate this time around is 20%, then you will realize the same 20%, which is a 2 kwacha in the next investment period, and so on and so forth, because the interest is fixed over time. Let's look at the formula that we can use to get simple interest from a given investment. So simple interest is obtained using the formula I is equal to PV multiplied by I times N. Now I have distinguished the I here, and this one, this one is capital, this one is small, a lowercase I, just to show that here I'm talking about the simple interest rate, while here I'm talking about the actual interest that you will get, the amount of money. Okay, so where this I is the interest in money terms of a given cash flow, PV is the present value of a given cash flow, that is the money you have today. And then the small I is the simple interest rate. Not forgetting the last part, which is the N, and this is the number of period that the money will be invested. So using this formula, we will be able to know our interest over a given period of time. Now, it should be noted that suppose you were only interested in knowing the interest for one time period, then the interest will be given by the present value multiplied by the simple interest rate. So if we multiply this by the number of periods that the money will be invested, we will be able to get our interest over the investment period. So make sure you take note of these two formulas because they are key in understanding what is happening to the investment. Okay, so let's look at an example. An investor puts 20,000 kwacha into a deposit account and has the annual interest paid directly into a separate account, and this money is spent. The deposit account pays 2.5% interest. The question is, how much interest is earned in the 5th year? Now, in answering this question, you may be tempted to use the first formula where we looked at interest over a period of time, which is PV multiplied by I multiplied by N. That formula will not give you the correct answer here because the question is not asking you to find the interest over the 5-year period, but it's asking you to get the interest in the 5th year, meaning for only one period. As such, we employ the one period simple interest formula, which is PV multiplied by I. Now, we see that PV is this 20,000 kwacha here. That's the value that we have that we are putting into the deposit account. And our interest is 2.5%, meaning 2.5 divided by 100. And if we simplify this part here, what we will have is that interest will be equal to 20,000 multiplied by 0.025. And what this will give us is a 500 kwacha, meaning in the 5th year, the interest on the 20,000 kwacha investment will be 500 kwacha. Okay, so let's look at example 2. How much interest will be earned on a 400 kwacha invested for a year at an annual interest of 0.5%? Now, here there are many errors that people make because you may be forced to look at this value here, the 0.5%, and think it's 0.5 and then multiply by the principal, which will be wrong. So make sure that when you're solving such a problem, you divide 0.5 by 100, and this will give you the actual 0.5%. Let's get the solution. So clearly we see here that we are looking at an investment for a given year. So again, it's just the single period formula that can be used. So interest is equal to present value multiplied by the interest rate, which is simple interest rate. From here, we substitute. So this is supposed to be a 400. So read this as 400 because it is the 400 that we are investing. So we will have a 400 here. And if we take this down, what we will have is 400. Again, I will wrap this. This is 400. Our principal is 400. So I'm putting 400 and then multiplied by 0.005. Now this 0.005 is the 0.5% interest. And if I multiply 400 multiplied by 0.005, what I will have is a 2 kwacha, meaning interest end will be 2 kwacha. So take note that this part here, the principal is 400. The same should happen here. So you put 400 here. Okay, so we are multiplying 400 multiplied by 0.5 over 100, which is the interest, and then multiply 400 by 0.005, which is the simplified interest rate, and the answer you will get will be a 2 kwacha. Meaning, if you invest a 400 kwacha today for 1 year, at the end of the year, you will earn 2 kwacha if the interest rate is 0.5%. Okay, so let's look at another example. Suppose that Chessmark puts 10,000 kwacha into a deposit account which pays annual interest of 4%. Suppose further that the interest only applies on the initial deposit and not on interest. How much interest will Chessmark realize by the 5th year? So now, take note, this question is asking us to get the investment by the 5th year, meaning, so we want to get the interest from period 1, period 2, period 3, period 4, all the way up to period 5. And then we add these together, and this will give us the interest. So meaning we are using the periodic interest formula. So present interest rate, interest will be present value multiplied by the interest rate multiplied by the time period. If we substitute this, we will have 10,000, which is the present value or the principal, multiplied by 4 over 100, because we are looking at 4% a simple interest rate, multiplied by 5, which is the period for which the money will be invested. Simplifying what we have in the brackets, we will have 0.04 multiplied by 5, which will simply be 10,000 multiplied by 0.2. And if you simplify that further, you will have your interest of 2,000 kwacha. Meaning, investing 10,000 kwacha today for 5 years at an interest rate of 4%, which is simple interest, your investment will give you interest of 2,000 kwacha. Okay, so thank you very much for watching session 2. If you have questions, please send an email to muauelias@gmail.com. Please also remember to subscribe to the channel, which is the YouTube channel Elias Muau, so that you get automated updates whenever videos on corporate finance are posted on YouTube. I'll see you in session 3, where we will look at the compound interest rate. Bye-bye.